didn't hear at the beginning. And if you're like me and just got that message, the session is going to be recorded. So you can click got it on the Zoom link to say that's okay for the recording, if you're okay with that. And if you need translation on the session, on the bottom is a globe icon, which you can click on and choose the language for which you want the session to be in today. So for starters, I just want to say welcome to everyone. There's students here, faculty members. So this will be the first of a series of sessions on practice and research in psychology across countries. And so I'm Danny Newman. I'm a faculty member in the school psychology program at the University of Cincinnati. We have participants today from the Autonomous University at Baja California in Mexico, Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, and University of Cincinnati here in Cincinnati, Ohio. People were also invited from the Global Psychology Alliance. So we're just excited to see you, and welcome to all. To begin, I'm going to pull up a video from Dr. Amanda Clinton from the American Psychological Association, who really coordinated this and got us all together for the sessions. Dr. Clinton's the Senior Director for International Affairs at the American Psychological Association, and she's going to speak about the purposes of the partnership and the ongoing work. So bear with me for a moment, and I will pull that up. Dave, can you give me a thumbs up if you could see that okay? Good. Okay, here's Dr. Clinton.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you all for joining us today for our inaugural gathering of a series of conversations on practice and research in psychology across countries. My name is Dr. Amanda Clinton, and I'm the Senior Director for the Office of International Affairs at the American Psychological Association. It is truly an honor for me to open this event, which is co-hosted by our colleague, Dr. Alfredo Padilla from the Universidad Autónoma de Baja California, Dr. Daniel Newman at the University of Cincinnati, and Dr. Dave Schreiberg at Indiana University. Psychological science clearly documents the benefits of increased creativity, effectiveness, productivity, and general engagement in what we do, tasks that we are assigned or elect when we work in diverse groups. Furthermore, our own science again highlights the importance of sophisticated understandings of cross-cultural interactions as a basis for developing trusting professional relationships that elevate not only psychology and psychologists, but humanity more broadly. The purpose of this series of conversations is to share with one another across countries in an effort to gain insight into a range of perspectives, be they fundamentally geographical, cultural, or linguistic, amongst others, and to learn more about approaches in research and practice in psychology. These discussions are critically important because although sometimes it seems like bridge building is an art that we've known for a long time and is now fairly straightforward, doing it well actually takes significant commitment to being part of a team, the willingness to learn from one another, to regroup, to redirect, and integrate a range of ideas, and of course, an openness to professional and personal growth. Dr. Padilla, Dr. Newman, and Dr. Schreiberg are dedicated to these efforts, as am I. We are grateful that you are as well. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here and for your true dedication to being part of a global psychology that serves to transform us all. I hope you have a great time, and I'll see you soon.
All right, so I think Dr. Padilla, you're going to take over now for a moment.
Muchas gracias, Daniel. Muchas gracias a todos ustedes. Dave, gracias a Amanda. Fíjense que ahora le vamos a pedir a la doctora Heidi Anneli Zúñiga, que es la directora de la Facultad de Psicología, perdón, de la Facultad de Ciencias Humanas de la Universidad Autónoma de Baja California, que es una de las coanfitrionas junto con Amanda de todo este proyecto, que nos dé unas palabras de bienvenida y nos platica un poco también sobre la UABC. Heidi, por favor.
Hola, muy buenas tardes a todos y a todas. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Estamos muy contentos desde la Universidad Autónoma de Baja California de coorganizar este evento que tiene a bien liderar el doctor Alfredo Padilla, que ha sido un pilar en la licenciatura en psicología aquí en la Facultad de Ciencias Humanas, y cuentan con todo nuestro apoyo de logística y todo lo que está en nuestras manos para que este y otros eventos puedan tener el éxito alcanzado. Sabemos que se ha preparado con mucha antelación, con los esfuerzos de varias universidades, y sabemos que será gratificante recibir aquí tanto a profesores, investigadores y por supuesto a nuestros estudiantes, que se llevarán una grata experiencia. Muchísimas gracias a todos y bienvenidos.
Muchas gracias, Heidi. Bueno, pues entonces continuamos con el programa. Ya Daniel había platicado un poco sobre esta estructura. Vamos a trabajar en 3 pláticas iniciales, ¿no? Primero vamos a comenzar con el doctor Dave, después voy a continuar, y después Daniel, y después vamos a abrir el espacio para el diálogo, la plática, que es precisamente lo que estamos tratando de buscar en este escenario. Entonces, Dave, por favor, ¿nos quieres compartir tu presentación?
Yes, absolutely. Welcome everybody. Let me share my screen here. Come on, yes. Am I still so bad at this? Let's choke under pressure. Here we go. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, hopefully that works now. You would think this prior into COVID, I would have this down. All right, so welcome everybody. I'm really excited to be talking both for myself and on behalf of Tiandra Little, an amazing doctoral student in our program. He'll be talking in a few minutes to share a little bit about our work, and also to hopefully do a good job representing our program as a whole. As Dr. Prudia-Lopez mentioned, each of us will talk a little bit about our programs, and then also about some of the individual research and work that we do, and that's sort of how I have my talk structured. So I want to share just a little bit about just our program in general. So the Indiana School Psychology program. So we are like Danny and the University of Cincinnati. We're here representing a graduate degree program in school psychology. We have 2 different degree programs here: an EDS program, which is takes 3 years after your bachelor's degree, and a doctoral program that takes 5 or 6 years. And looking at who's in attendance here, we have representatives from both programs here. I see Jackie, Carissa, Jack, Karina from the PhD program. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. And then I also saw a few EDS students, Nia and Sienna. So we have a lot of our students here that can talk about our program. Basically, we have 3 very broad goals. One is to develop knowledge and competencies in a social justice framework. And that's, I'll talk a little bit more about that, at least what that looks like for me. Then for each of our faculty, that kind of, and our students, that means something a little different, but that's a kind of a core crux of our program. The second view, and this kind of gathering is very much in the spirit of developing a comprehensive view of school psychology practice. So we think about that not just in the training that we provide, but also in kind of the mindset. And I'll talk about that in a minute, about how I see this initiative potentially fitting into the goal of a comprehensive view of practice. Finally, we want our students to develop research and data-based decision-making skills, which hopefully this project can help facilitate as well, or this collaboration. All right, let me tell you just a little bit about some of the other cast of characters here. So you're hearing from me. I'm Dave Schreiberg. I'm the person with the least initials after my name here. But I coordinate for several years. I was the director of the EDS and the PhD program. Fortunately, this year, the reinforcements have come, and now we've divided up our roles quite a bit. So now I'm coordinating field placements, which has been awesome. In a bigger sense, I've been a professor now for about 20 years. I've worked at a few different universities, and I came to Indiana in 2018. We have 3 other core faculty. Scott Bellini, who directs our EDS program and whose research is largely just quickly about like social skills development amongst children with autism. Mary Ellen Brunson McLean, who's in Italy right now, but is very interested in this collaboration. I know from her telling me that, I think it's the middle of the night in Italy. She has many letters after her name, as you can see, but she directs our PhD program, and she also runs our clinic. And her research is largely about autism assessment. Heather Ormiston is our last core faculty. She directs, we have a minor in child and adolescent mental health, and her research is largely based around school-based mental health interventions. Finally, we have an associated faculty, Dr. Anna Merrill, who teaches a lot of our field placement courses and also is actively involved in our clinic. That's the basic kind of run of who we are. I'm going to talk just a little bit about my own research and then hand it over to Tiandra to share a little bit about her background, because we've been working together on this project. I just want to say just very quickly, Amanda, Dr. Clinton really did, I thought did a nice job and both of our speakers have really done a nice job of laying out the goals of this. For me, when Amanda first approached me about this, I was an immediate yes. And some of you that know me well know, like, I'm a yes for a lot of things, but I'm not always an immediate yes. And like, this was like a yes. And this is why. I think that psychology is thought about and practiced in way too narrow a way, whether it's school psychology, my field, or any other fields. I think, while I like to think that, and I do think that our training in Indiana is very strong, and I love my colleagues, we're a handful of people. Indiana is not the whole universe of psychology. And even if we cover every possible thing, it's important, I think, for our students that their scope of viewing the world of psychology is broader than Indiana, Cincinnati, or any other program can deliver. And so it's really important to interact with, meet, learn from people from different backgrounds across country, across the globe. And so I see this as a real opportunity to do that, to just on a social level, just to meet some new people and learn about the work that they do and just make some good interpersonal connections. And then I think from a learning perspective, to really learn from one another and get a sense of some of what other people and other programs are really passionate about and what their corner of psychology looks like to them. The future is only going to be more and more global psychology, and I think it's a mistake to have a really narrow focus. So I'm really excited about this, both on a human level, to get to meet other people and to meet those of you that I don't know and learn from you. And I think there's just a lot of potential in a collaboration between three programs where we can accomplish more together and think about things more broadly than any of us could do individually. I want to share just a little bit about my research work, and then I'll hand it over to Tiandra. So basically, the premise of my research work, and all three of us are going to be talking about our research, I believe, is that psychologists have the potential to be effective agents of social justice. Social justice has many different definitions. I'll just say briefly, like, social justice to me involves challenging the status quo and working and questioning what's happening around you, and working particularly to address areas of oppression where systems of power are being used to harm others, and promoting a vision of a more just society and using our tools as psychologists to do that. Now, psychologists don't often think about themselves that way, or maybe they're starting to now, but historically that hasn't really been true. There's always been some, of course, and I've had some great mentors. There were social justice advocates and thought of themselves that way. But a lot of psychology practice has been like a little more narrow, like about the work with the person in front of you, not always thinking about systemic and societal factors that are leading to so many children and adults needing and psychological support to begin with. So we have the potential, I believe, to be effective agents of social justice. If you're a psychologist in any kind of applied field, whether it's school psychology, clinical psychology, counseling psychology, you should be a good listener. You should be good at asking questions. You should be a good observer. We have facility to use data, right? And basically just kind of good critical thinkers whose essence, the reason to enter psychology is to help others. We are a service profession. So somebody that's that's an investment banker may care a lot about changing society, and that's great, and they may be able to do great work, but that's not what drove them to do the work that they're doing, right? But if you go into psychology, it's oriented towards the service of others. Of course, we all want our own careers to be successful and fulfilling, but our goal is to help others. So we have this access to, and we understand, ways that people are being harmed, and also on the positive side, ways that people can be uplifted and supported both individually and collectively. But we can't do much about it unless we're thinking about hey, part of our role is to be effective agents of social justice. It's hard to do that by yourself. None of us have all the answers, but when we work collectively and we think about that as part of our role, then we're able to accomplish more. So that's kind of one of the premises of the research that I do, is like, does this have the potential to advance social justice? Is always kind of a thought in my mind. I don't think that like I'm not a superhero. I make mistakes, so I'm not saying everything I do is a perfect social justice action, but for my research, like I'm always thinking, does it at least have the potential to advance in a positive way? My second kind of premise is that research should be participatory. A lot of psychology research is done kind of to people and not with people. I think Danny's going to be talking about some of his consultation work that's very collaborative. And so I think the research is best done, especially applied research, when you're directly involving the people that are that are your participants, when they have a potential to have some benefit from the work. If the work is just about advancing the goal of the researcher, it might be judged as good research, but in my mind, it's not reflecting kind of core principles of social justice in terms of being participatory. So when I do projects, it's not always like, it's not, how can you, school, because I usually work in schools, I have this intervention, will you do it for me or with me? It's more like, I am interested in this topic. Are you interested in this as well? And is there a way that we can work together to do something that both is going to be good research, but has actual potential to have actual benefit for you as a school, because the results can actually be used in a tangible way. So often that involves directly interviewing people or surveying people or doing a lot of work before a research project even gets started to build relationships and talk about what type of project would be most beneficial. So that's kind of sort of like my attitude towards research. And then some of the specific projects or some of the threads I have right now, I've been working for a while and trying to map out some social justice competency areas in school psychology. In my field, we've gone from in the last 10 or 15 years to social justice being kind of like a taboo topic to much more mainstream. But it's one thing to say like, hey, I'm for social justice. I think right now, not too many people would say I'm against social justice, right? So it's one thing to say I'm for social justice. That's not particularly hard right now. But then what does that actually mean? Like, what does that look like? And how does that translate to practice? So a lot of my research is involved trying to map out those things, sometimes for the field more generally, and sometimes in some specific areas, like particularly consultation, which is an area that I overlap with Danny quite a bit. I'm also very interested in global psychology collaborations across a variety of topics. My research team just finished a project with a collaborator in the UK. I'm going to be going to Israel next month, and I'm hoping to start some collaborations there. And then where our research team is very much holding space for this effort, because we're hoping that, through the course of getting to know each other over the next 3 meetings, that will lead to some opportunities for collaborative research amongst us. And that, that's something that, members of my research team I know are very interested in. Broadly, I'm very interested in research that involves supporting the mental health of minoritized youth. So my most recent lab project had to do with, it was started as COVID was close to its peak, and while schools were returning, coming back from the virtual setting to in person. So kind of looking at ways that kind of transition back may have impacted minoritized youth, particularly students with special needs. So we did a lot of interviewing of teachers and people involved in academic supports. And then most recently, I am Jewish, and there's been a real rise in anti-Semitism, both in the United States and across the globe. And so I'm increasingly starting to do, my first article just accepted earlier this week about addressing anti-Semitism, and also just kind of promoting joy and pride amongst Jewish youth. If you're a Jewish youth right now, not only because of anti-Semitism, but legacies of Holocaust and just kind of oppression, a lot of Jews, I think, feel like kind of either shamed or like their understanding of Judaism absenteeism is like one of being oppressed. And while that's true, I'm not minimizing that in any way. I think it's also important to have a sense of joy and pride in your identity. So I'm very interested in projects that are involved helping Jewish students to feel a sense of pride about their identity, as we would want from students with any identities. So those are the types of things that I'm most interested in. I hope in this 10-15 minutes I've given you a little bit of background. I've asked one of the students from my research lab, again, the amazing Tiandra Little, who has been a part of planning this collaboration, to introduce herself and say a few words kind of about her interests. So I will turn over to Tiandra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiandra. I am a first-year student in the PhD program for school psychology at Indiana University. And I just wanted to say why I decided to pursue this degree, which is because school psychology combines what I'm most passionate about, and that's children, education, and mental health. So I'm really excited to get into the field and work with parents, teachers, administrators, and other professionals to advocate and support for diverse learners, and just promote healthy practices overall. As for my research, I hope to conduct research on the experiences of biracial youth. Specifically, I'm interested in identity formation, perceptions of self, impressions of social belonging and societal expectations, and overall how this might affect health and well-being for youth. As for this partnership, I think it's great and it's important to me because it provides an amazing opportunity for everyone involved to gain new perspectives and engage with other cultures, and also to practice maintaining an open-minded approach when working with different types of people. I'm also really excited to get to foster new relationships and establish some new connections, as you know, a new psychologist and budding psychologist. So with that being said, I'm really excited to be here tonight with you all and to be working with such an amazing team.
Awesome. Thank you, Tiandra. All right. So now I get the honor to pass things off to Dr. Padilla Lopez.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. Voy a compartirles pantalla. A ver, espero que ahí se esté viendo. Ahí está, creo que ahí está ya. ¿Ya se ve la pantalla, la presentación? Ok, muy bien. Pues bueno, muchas gracias, Dave. Fíjate que es interesante. Hemos estado platicando en varias sesiones sobre cómo podemos trabajar y ahora me queda más clara la capacidad de lo que están haciendo, los alcances de los proyectos, y precisamente esta es la idea de este webinar, ¿no? Que va a tener estas 3 sesiones, que tanto los estudiantes de nuestras escuelas como los asistentes, que son profesores, son investigadores en otros lados, pues se den cuenta qué es lo que estamos haciendo y podamos promover este intercambio de opiniones, incluso el intercambio en presencial, ¿no? Entre los grupos de investigación que estamos acá. Bueno, yo titulé mi presentación como Salud Mental, Profesión y Sociedad. Procuré ponerlo en inglés también por si tengo faltas de ortografía, ya no se fijen, nomás lean así como que estoy aprendiendo. Pero bueno, vamos a ver un poco sobre mis antecedentes. Yo soy psicólogo de formación, a diferencia de otros lugares, otros países, normalmente en Latinoamérica, obviamente en México, Latinoamérica. Para poder ejercer la psicología es suficiente lo que en otros lados se llama bachelor. En este caso nosotros lo llamamos licenciatura. Con eso obtenemos la licencia para ejercer. Y bueno, desde que yo me formé, me estuve trabajando con Javier Galarza, que es uno de mis profesores, o fue uno de mis profesores, Alfredo Ardila, Arnoldo Telles, Pablo Valdés, casi toda mi trayectoria de formación fue en el área de bases biológicas de la conducta. Entonces, mucho de lo que hacemos actualmente está permeado con esto porque, bueno, pues históricamente en el laboratorio que estoy coordinando en este momento, que antes coordinó Javier Galarza, que es el de psicofisiología, pues trabajamos al principio. El laboratorio se creó en 1990 1989, pero en 1991 ya tenemos este espacio donde estamos trabajando ahorita. Empezamos a trabajar con temas de neurocirugía en especies menores, neurofisiología, con electrofisiología, y hacíamos investigación básica, o sea, empezar a trabajar con animales, algunas cosas aplicadas con humanos, estudios del dormir, la polisomnografía, actividad eléctrica del cerebro. A mí en lo personal me fue interesando el tema de la neuroanatomía funcional, el tema de cómo funciona el cerebrote, y afortunadamente en esa época, entre el 92, 93, eh, eh, vino por primera vez el doctor Alfredo Ardila, por invitación del doctor Javier Galarza, y me abrió otro panorama completo de lo que podría ser la psicología, porque en ese entonces trabajamos nada más temas de conductismo, temas de electro, de investigación básica, pero cuando me dice el doctor Alfredo Ardila, que eso que sé sobre cómo funciona el cerebro me puede ayudar a entender por qué las personas con daño cerebral se comportan así y que además puede ayudarles a mejorar su calidad de vida, se abrió el panorama. Aparte, fue una época muy bonita porque en México la neuropsicología empieza a desarrollarse a mediados de la década de los 80, 1984, 86. Y bueno, y nosotros acá en la zona noroeste del país, nosotros estamos en la zona norte, oeste, abajo de lo que sería California, Arizona. En esa zona del país, pues no había nada en los 90. Entonces, Javier Galarza y un servidor empezamos a trabajar el tema de la neuropsicología clínica, la aplicada pues a los pacientes, y pues nos dedicamos a eso. Entonces fuimos de los pioneros en la zona norte del país y en la zona noreste, junto con Arnoldo Telles, que empezaron a trabajar también en la zona norte del país. Y como le decíamos a los pacientes, no somos ni los mejores ni los peores, somos los únicos que hacemos esto, así que vamos a tratar de ayudar a la gente. Y ahí nos dedicamos hasta el 2013 en lo particular, nos dedicamos a trabajar en neuropsicología, y junto con este tema de atender a los pacientes con daño cerebral, pues venía la otra parte que era consecuente. Tenemos que no solamente para entender o diagnosticar el daño cerebral y el comportamiento consecuente, necesitamos también de generar estrategias de intervención. Entonces empezamos a meternos en el tema de la retroalimentación biológica, que es la forma aplicada de la base electrofisiológica, y un poco, ¿por qué no?, también de la neuroanatomía. Y empezamos a trabajar también eso, ¿no? El tema de retroalimentación biológica, muy enfocado a la investigación aplicada. No dejamos de hacer investigación con pacientes, acerca de las afasias, de las agnosias, amnesias, apraxias. En lo particular, a mí me gustaba mucho el tema de las apraxias. eh, pero bueno, entonces empezamos a hacer ese tipo de investigación. Después, por cuestiones propias del trabajo, de la profesión, me involucré con el colegio local de psicólogos, con el Colegio de Psicólogos de Mexicali, y empecé a ver otra forma de aplicar la psicología. O sea, nunca he dejado de verla desde el punto de vista, perdón, de las bases biológicas, o aplicar el conocimiento de las bases biológicas, los métodos de las bases biológicas a la intervención social o a la intervención con más personas. Entonces, me dediqué un tiempo también a colaborar con el Colegio de Psicólogos. Después, el mismo colegio me llevó a colaborar con las agencias de gobierno, con otras asociaciones de psicólogos a nivel nacional. Y en el 2006, me invitan el presidente de mi universidad, el rector de mi universidad, me invita a colaborar con él para crear una escuela, se llama actualmente Facultad de Ingeniería y Negocios, donde aparte de estar las carreras de ingeniería, el área de administrativas económicas, también estaba el área de psicología. Entonces empezamos a desarrollar, y eso me llevó a orientarme a tratar de entender cómo mejorar la estrategia de formación profesional en los estudiantes universitarios, sobre todo en las comunidades de escasos recursos, porque esa facultad se creó para atender a la población rural de esta zona de México. Y bueno, entonces tratar de formar profesionistas de alto nivel con pocos recursos, pues sí es un reto interesante. Entonces, eso mismo me llevó a trabajar con otras asociaciones nacionales. Me encargué de la Comisión Nacional de Ética de la Sociedad Mexicana casi por 10 años también, más o menos. Y junto con esto, pues me fue orientando hacia el trabajo de la salud mental y la cognición. Nunca, insisto, he dejado dos cosas de hacer: el proceso de la formación profesional de estudiantes, de profesionistas, de especialistas, y el entendimiento de la función cerebral. Entonces, todo esto he tratado de aplicarlo en casi todas las áreas en las que me desenvuelvo. Y ahora, bueno, pues nos dedicamos de lleno a un campo un poco más amplio, el campo de la salud mental, ¿no? Desde la perspectiva de bases biológicas, desde la perspectiva social. Y bueno, eso es lo que hemos estado tratando de hacer durante estos largos años. En particular, actualmente, el laboratorio y el grupo de personas con las que trabajo, casi siempre me voy a hablar en plural porque, pues, digo, así como lo dijo Dave, pues, o sea, está muy difícil trabajar solo y desarrollar proyectos de este nivel solo. Siempre hay gente alrededor, afortunadamente, gente que le interesa mucho los proyectos, que se dejan convencer y que podemos aportar en conjunto a mejorar. Entonces, los tres grandes proyectos en el que trabajamos actualmente, los denomina así: un proyecto Brain, cerebro en español, está dirigido a tratar de comprender la relación entre la cognición, las emociones y el desempeño académico de los estudiantes universitarios. Nos interesa particularmente la población universitaria. El otro proyecto grande, que se llama Salud Mental, pues está dirigido a tratar de crear modelos, crear proyectos de intervención comunitaria, proyectos que puedan ayudar a mejorar la calidad de vida y el bienestar de las personas. Y el otro gran proyecto se llama Parámetro. Eh, Desde que empezamos a trabajar con pacientes con daño cerebral, nos dimos cuenta que una de las cosas que nos faltaba y nos sigue faltando todavía en México es crear instrumentos de medición que sean válidos, que sean funcionales, que sean confiables, ¿no? En términos psicométricos. Y adolecemos mucho de eso, entonces nos dedicamos a generar este tipo de proyectos. Les voy a platicar en particular algunos de estos proyectos. Por ejemplo, en el caso del proyecto Brain, eh, una compañera que me ha ayudado muchísimo y que gracias a ella empezamos a desarrollar este proyecto, Adriana Sánchez. eh, Creo que sin ella está muy difícil desarrollar todo lo demás. Es muy buena para trabajar en equipo y adelantar temas, ¿no? Entonces, en este proyecto, en este gran proyecto se suman 4 proyectos. O sea, se desliga, pues, en spin-off del proyecto Brain. El primero fue, pues, desarrollar una aplicación, le llamamos a Más Móvil, para medir la ansiedad en estudiantes universitarios. Luego tenemos el proyecto TEA, que es un derivado del proyecto Más. Tenemos el proyecto Memoria, que es un proyecto de tesis de una de las estudiantes, Ali, se llama ella, en donde estamos asociando cómo la ansiedad afecta a la memoria de trabajo y cómo la relación entre ambas afecta al desempeño académico de los estudiantes universitarios. Y el proyecto Madre es un proyecto raro porque eh, en algunos de los estudios que hicimos en el Damas Móvil descubrimos que, al parecer, parte del desempeño, de la calidad del desempeño de los estudiantes universitarios está asociado, hay una correlación por ahí con el nivel educativo de la madre, de las mamás de estos estudiantes. Está muy raro, está muy loco, pero bueno, es una cosa que estamos ahí tratando de buscar. Fíjense, en particular, está este proyecto donde les digo que transformamos una escala de ansiedad, la A más C, la escala de ansiedad manifiesta para adultos, la versión C, que es para estudiantes universitarios. La transformamos a digital, luego la aplicamos a 700, más de 700 estudiantes universitarios. Ajustamos ahí la versión psicométrica y resulta que, bueno, ahora tenemos un nuevo producto que es más breve que la más y tiene el mismo nivel de confiabilidad y validez. Le denominamos escala breve de ansiedad para estudiantes universitarios, pero para estudiantes de educación superior. Es una aplicación que puede trabajar en plataforma Android y ya tenemos también la versión para trabajar en iOS. Puede funcionar en teléfonos inteligentes y en perdón, y en tabletas. Bueno, está aquí en inglés la versión, por los que quieran. Está traducida al inglés para que sea más fácil, tal vez para algunos. Bueno, el otro proyecto, que es un derivado del proyecto Más, es este proyecto que hemos descubierto que va a ser uno de los proyectos pioneros en México. Le llamamos TEA ANX, es trastorno del espectro autista y ansiedad. Nos interesa, cuando estamos haciendo este desarrollo de la Más Móvil, nos dimos cuenta que varios estudiantes de las áreas de las ingenierías, bueno, que en las áreas de la ingeniería se concentraban en la matrícula varios estudiantes universitarios con TEA, ¿no? Con este trastorno del espectro autista. Entonces, lo que queremos saber es si el estudiante universitario con TEA tiene un perfil de ansiedad diferente al neurotípico. Entonces, estamos haciendo un estudio, les digo, yo no sabía, pero bueno, así parece que va el asunto. A nivel nacional no hay muchas investigaciones en torno a esto. A nivel global, parece que también hay poca información sobre los estudiantes universitarios TEA. Y bueno, ahorita ya terminamos la fase piloto, ahorita estamos trabajando ya coordinadamente con 23 institutos tecnológicos y 12 universidades a nivel nacional. Es un reto bastante interesante, pero bueno, creo que igual que nos pasó con lo de neuropsicología, cuando comenzamos con eso, no somos ni los mejores ni los peores, pero somos de los primeros que estamos tratando de descubrir cómo sí hacerlo. Perdón, esta es la información en inglés de este proyecto. Eh, y bueno, y el otro de los grandes proyectos, el de salud mental. Aquí están dos de mis mentoras, como decían hace rato, Amanda es una hiperactiva que además de ser muy capaz, es una persona con mucha visión, entonces le he estado aprendiendo mucho. Y también a Jackie Cranny, Jackie fue presidenta del ICOP, ella es de Australia, y trae proyectos muy interesantes y he aprendido muchísimo sobre el trabajo de investigación a nivel internacional con ella. Pero mira, les platico un poco y trato de ser rápido con los proyectos que estamos desarrollando. Primero, este proyecto que estamos desarrollando con el Colegio de Psicólogos de Colombia y con el Colegio perdón, la Asociación de Psicólogos de Nicaragua. Este proyecto lo denominamos Hablemos de Psicología para entender la psicología. Es un proyecto que estamos tratando de generar para tratar de entender si cuando hablamos de psicología en diferentes países estamos hablando de lo mismo, porque en varios proyectos que hemos trabajado a nivel internacional nos damos cuenta que usamos las mismas palabras, pero nos referimos a diferentes cosas, aún entre los latinos. Entonces, lo que estamos tratando de hacer es entrevistas con líderes de la psicología en cada país y preguntarles, pues, ¿qué hacen, no? ¿Qué se dedican? ¿Qué entienden ellos por psicología? Y cómo ellos hacen lo que hacen y por qué hacen eso. Entonces, al final son 4 temporadas, van a ser 2 años del proyecto. Vamos a terminar la primera temporada con líderes de Latinoamérica. La semana pasada comenzamos con la segunda temporada, que son líderes de diferentes países. En este caso ya tenemos agendada Nepal, India, Indonesia, Nigeria, Trinidad y Tobago, Etiopía. Y aparte vamos a hacer un spin-off con latinos que no viven en su país de origen. Y vamos a tratar de hacer al final de los 2 años una síntesis de cómo los que hacen psicología comprenden la psicología y después saber si la gente, la persona, el usuario de la psicología, entiende lo mismo que entendemos los psicólogos sobre qué es hacer psicología. Eso es lo que queremos hacer. Bueno, el otro de los grandes proyectos, en parte es una de las cosas que sabemos que es uno de los grandes problemas a nivel global, el cambio climático y cómo el comportamiento humano ha provocado y mantiene y acelera el proceso del cambio climático. Pero queremos saber desde la perspectiva psicológica y de la comunicación social, qué tanto nos damos cuenta de nuestra participación y cómo nuestro comportamiento afecta la relación con el mundo, pues, con el planeta. Entonces ahí tenemos el apoyo de la organización, perdón, de la Red Latinoamericana de Comunicación Organizacional, de la American Psychological Association, y la Universidad de Quebec, la Universidad Católica de Uruguay y obviamente de la UABC. Vamos a hacer un proyecto a nivel continental, a nivel del continente americano, para tratar de entender de la voz de las personas comunes de todos los días, de los cotidianos, los individuos, cómo ellos se perciben a sí mismos con respecto al cambio climático. Esa es una idea que parece que también es algo relevante en nuestros días. Bueno, otro de los proyectos que estamos trabajando precisamente con ICOP hay como es el International Council of Psychology Educators, donde me toca en este momento presidir a esta asociación. Estamos tratando de entender cómo podemos, los profesores de psicología, ayudar de la mejor manera a entender la psicología, tanto a los estudiantes de psicología como a los usuarios de la psicología. Cómo entender cuáles serían las competencias mínimas básicas para ejercer psicología, cómo entender si lo que todos estamos enseñando en las materias de psicología es precisamente lo que cualquier psicólogo debe saber a nivel global. Y en octubre de este año, el 27-28 de octubre, tenemos nuestro congreso, precisamente aquí con nosotros en la sede Mexicali, en la UABC, donde nos vamos a reunir pues para platicar sobre eso. Si quieren inscribirse, no es comercial, pero aquí está un logo, un QR, y ahí pueden inscribirse, es gratuito. El evento es gratuito, tenemos ahí conferencias magistrales, ponencias, pláticas y todo esto. En inglés, por si las dudas, ahí está. No hay mucho que cambiarle las palabras, pero bueno, ahí está. Otro de los grandes proyectos, y ya casi acabo con mi presentación, es el proyecto Parámetro. Les decía que uno de los grandes retos para ejercer la neuropsicología en México, y particularmente la psicología, bueno, en general también la psicología, es tener instrumentos de medición, instrumentos de evaluación que sean válidos, que sean validados, que sean confiables, ¿no? Estadísticamente y psicométricamente. Y bueno, gracias al trabajo de Javier Galarza, desde hace mucho tiempo empezamos a trabajar con la parametrización de pruebas que ya son comerciales y con la construcción de instrumentos que vamos utilizando y vamos construyendo. Al momento hemos trabajado con 19 pruebas. Actualmente, actualmente estamos trabajando con una empresa italiana, Giunti Psychometrics, eh, para tratar de parametrizar 8 instrumentos más durante este año, lo que va de este año y el siguiente. Vamos a tratar de hacer este trabajo. Pronto vamos a trabajar también con Pearson México, con otra serie de pruebas también. Y hay un proyecto más que es reciente, tenemos apenas unos meses trabajando con ellos, es sobre el proyecto Paz. Uno de los psicólogos en la Universidad de Guadalajara, la Universidad Veracruzana y la Universidad de Guanajuato en México están muy interesados en tratar de crear un instrumento que sea capaz de medir la percepción que tienen los estudiantes universitarios sobre la paz y la justicia social. Dave, por si te interesa, ahí estamos en un punto de encuentro. Eh, entonces, este tipo de proyectos están apenas comenzando y bueno, y los que se quieran unir, adelante, ahí estamos para colaborar. Por último, les comento que, como les decía, aparte de todas las personas que han visto, que están ahí en la pantalla, en México las universidades nos dividimos o nos asociamos en grupos de investigación. Entonces, esos grupos de investigación son grupos de profesores que se dedican a investigar temas y hay aparte otros grupos de investigación. En el caso de nosotros, el grupo se llama Salud Mental, Profesión y Sociedad. Este grupo, pues, nos dedicamos a generar, además de artículos científicos, conferencias, talleres, libros, capítulos de libro, aparte generamos otros medios de difusión del conocimiento, como es el Seminario Internacional sobre Salud Mental y Educación o el Seminario Nacional de Psicología. Este, Incluso estamos ahí trabajando en unos podcasts sobre las voces de la neuropsicología, que es un proyecto muy bonito porque entrevistamos a 22 de los pioneros de la neuropsicología latinoamericana. Afortunadamente la mayoría todavía están vivos y los entrevistamos y pues vamos a generar este podcast, ¿no? Para conocer cómo es que nace la neuropsicología en cada uno de estos países. Y bueno, pues espero no haberme tardado tanto ni comerme tanto tiempo. Ahí están mis datos. Le cedo la voz y el tiempo a Daniel. Muchas gracias por escuchar.
Thanks so much. I'm gonna pull up my screen. All right. Can everyone see that and hear me okay? Give a thumbs up if you can hear me. Yeah? Okay, good. I'm Danny Newman. So I introduced myself briefly before. I'm a faculty member at the University of Cincinnati in the school psychology program. And I'm also the program coordinator in a couple of other roles. I'm the editor of the Journal of Educational and Psychological Consultation. So if you're doing any work in the area of consultation and collaboration, send your stuff our way. We'd love to see it. And I'm president of the Trainers of School Psychologists, which is a group that focuses on graduate education for school psychologists nationally and internationally. And I'm so excited to be a part of this project and get to share with you today. And one of the amazing doctoral students in our program is going to speak. So we've kind of split up our slides a little bit. I wanted to mention, a couple of just big thematic pieces from the University of School Psychology program, focus on social justice in our program. We also emphasize an ecological and behavioral model, and I'll be talking about that a little bit today, as will Joe, with a lot of content actually within the program on applied behavior analysis. But we have consultation and collaboration really also as a cornerstone within our program. And, right now, I think back to some of the initial pieces with the establishment of the model called mental health consultation, which was established in Israel after World War II. After the Holocaust, there were about 16,000 children who immigrated to Israel, and a psychiatrist there named Gerald Kaplan and his staff was expected to service all these kids, and they quickly learned we can't do the work one child at a time, putting out one fire at a time, one problem at a time. We needed to think about a model of indirect service delivery where we could give psychology away. And so that model, I feel like, is so relevant now when we think about the COVID-19 pandemic and thinking about all the needs, especially when we think about the field of school psychology and the needs in schools, whether it's academic needs where students have academic support needs or mental health support needs or behavioral needs. And I really have a value for consultation as a framework for service delivery to provide supports rather than problem solving one student at a time. So those are the things we'll be talking about. And Joe will start with describing some of the big ideas here and defining school consultation. I took a little note here. I thought it was really interesting. Dr. Padilla, you were talking about, psychology kind of can mean different things to different people when we talk about it and different approaches. And social justice, Dave, you said, kind of can mean different things to different people and how we think about it. And I think consultation can too. So I want to be really explicit about how we're thinking about consultation and describing it as a competency area in all of psychology. And then consider why that's so. What are the outcomes that can be achieved through consultation service delivery? And then how do we get there? So if the outcomes are the destination, we could think about the process skills that are the vehicle to get there. What are the pieces for establishing good relationships and communicating effectively, our active listening skills to achieve those outcomes? And then I'll talk about a couple of ongoing projects from the last couple of years related to this that I think are relevant within the partnership here. So I'm going to turn it over to Joe. And Joe, I'll kind of flip the slides for you. You can tell me when to flip.
Cool. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate everyone just kind of listening to us on our presentation from representing the University of Cincinnati. Just quickly, I'm a fourth-year doctoral student, so I'm doing my dissertation this year. And hopefully I'll be able to talk to you all more a little bit in the future about my research interests. But actually, I think a lot of what I did as a practicing school psychologist was consultation in the schools. And so, I think we'll hit on some big ideas, but we obviously won't get into all of it. And it is really a different animal per se when you're actually in the schools and practicing it. Working with real people and dealing with very real situations. But first of all, consultation, like Danny had mentioned, is a pivotal skill within psychology and all the different fields and subdisciplines of psychology. It's more than just meeting to talk with someone about a problem. It's really a systematic problem-solving process where There are, micro skills involved with kind of broaching different professional issues that someone in the schools, a teacher might be experiencing. So it's not just counseling and talking to someone about their personal issues, it's focusing on those professional concerns. It also requires content knowledge and process skills. So, a big thing within consultation research is, the idea that we're not just the experts coming in and kind of telling a teacher, here's your problem and here's some strategies to solve them. It's a collaborative process where, we might have particular knowledge and skills about how the process might go, but we recognize that both the teacher and the school psychologist have their own expertise to bring to the table. It also requires practice with supervision over time for the development of these consultation competencies. And so I think Danny's going to get into this more when he talks about his ongoing research, but the idea of deliberate practice where you are really honing a skill and spending intentional time on working on the skill of consultation. And so here's some more definitional features of consultation. Like Danny mentioned with the historical example in Israel, consultation is an indirect service delivery. So, we're not working directly with our clients, i.e. the student, but we are providing a consultation service to the teacher to grow their confidence, their knowledge, their skills on how to effectively move the needle with their student or the client. It's a form of systematic problem solving. And so, we engage in the problem solving process of, identifying what the problem is, analyzing, what are the different, facets of this problem, what's kind of the context around the concern, whether it's academic, behavioral, or socio-emotional, developing an intervention collaboratively, and then, finally, engaging in evaluation of, hey, how did the intervention go? Do we want to modify anything? And then, of course, returning back to problem identification if, there are, other issues that we're seeing within that context. Consultation also focuses on prevention as much as it focuses on remediation. And so, a big piece within consultation is kind of giving psychology away and kind of providing teachers and school staff with tools to be able to kind of solve problems without, the school psychologist being there, which, oftentimes is a trap, I think, for school psychologists in the schools today is, we all want to be the experts, in the schools. And so it's kind of taking that hat away and kind of focusing in on, how do we engage in more prevention and indirect service delivery to really affect more students and affect and be able to benefit them much more than we would just working with people individually. Consultation is also a kind of bidirectional process where, the consultee is learning just as much as the consultant is learning. And so it's a relationship of equals in which, both parties, the consultant and the consultee, bring their expertise. It's a professional focus, like I'd mentioned, and that's what really differentiates it from counseling where, the professional the psychologist is dealing with personal problems of the client. There's an ecological focus, which is, in large part, a big focus within University of Cincinnati's school psychology program. We have a behavioral ecological lens that we view problem solving and tackling student concerns in schools. And so the ecological focus really just kind of moves the conversation away from a student deficit conversation to more of a mismatch between the student and the curriculum, or the student and instruction. So looking at kind of the environment and how can we change things in the environment to really support students in schools. And then there are some different evolving features within consultation as well. It's, voluntary, consultee initiated, and confidential process. This is just a slide that talks about the different outcomes that are the result of consultation. So, kind of very immediately, consultation is meant to improve the skills, knowledge, confidence, and perspectives of consultees. And all that is kind of the pathway to moving the needle on clients' academic, behavioral, and social emotional issues or their skills. And then also consultation can occur at the systems level as well. So, systems level consultation can build collective self-efficacy of school staff and also enhance the functioning of interventions and multi-systems of support within schools. So the process skills of consultation, this is how we ultimately achieve the outcomes. And so one of the first things is just when you're entering a school, trying to understand what the school culture is, understanding the norms and regularities of systems. And so I think a lot of graduates from school psychology programs are, really gung-ho and want to really get inside the schools and really kind of change the culture and really, talk about, MTSS or multi-tiered systems of supports and RTI, and, really want to, in a way challenge kind of the status quo. But we know that within kind of effective consultation, that trust and rapport building is really crucial, and also just understanding, the kind of culture you're entering to be able to be an effective consultant. It's really important that that step. Systematic problem solving I already talked about. Humble consulting, including cultural humility. This kind of ties in with that first point. Just that, we are respecting the expertise of our teachers. And, in American schools especially, teachers can be really isolated and siloed in their classrooms. And so recognizing just the level of difficulty that can be, and kind of coming in as a consultant, not trying to fix everything, but rather trying to learn from our clients, learn from our consultees, our teachers, to be able to be a more effective consultant. And then lastly, prioritizing collaborative communication and centering active listening with our consultees, and just, using all of those different micro skills of, active listening, kind of asking clarifying questions, and, and kind of setting expectations in the beginning and contracting. So there's a lot of pieces that go into that, but, certainly the communication within a consultative relationship should be collaborative. So.
Thanks, Joe. So I'm going to talk a little bit just then about a couple of the ongoing research projects, building on that description of consultation. There's a decent evidence base that consultation is effective in achieving the outcomes that we talked about, but what we know less about is consultation training, and if folks are supported to be effective consultants in practice. What we do know is that descriptively, there's not a whole lot of training at times, and it's maybe given short shrift compared to other areas in psychology when we talk about consultation training. And so this has really become an interest area for me in my own research, because without effective training, we could talk about ineffective outcomes, errors of omission or commission in communication, ineffective problem solving, jumping to solutions too early in ways that might result in a process breaking down and not being able to achieve the outcomes that we want. So what I do is take a developmental approach to training that involves, from, if you're looking at the kind of the top left with awareness, that people who are learning to consult start at this basic level of maybe being able to describe a few concepts, and there, pairs well with lectures and readings, moving towards maybe a more depth of understanding, conceptual understanding, where modeling and demonstration are important, showing videos, doing live modeling, and so forth. But if we really want to move past that, which is probably the level where most folks leave their training programs from psychology and the capacity to consult, to actually acquire skills and apply them, it takes practice, it takes supervision, feedback during that supervision, self-reflection as a part of it, role playing, and so forth. And that is how we acquire skills. And then we can move towards skill application in the field. And I would argue that having ongoing supervision in the field can continue to be important, or ongoing coaching. If you think about Olympic athletes, they're getting ongoing coaching of their performance as they go. So that's an important component there. So I have a picture of myself there playing ukulele because I've engaged in this deliberate practice process, which fits with the developmental approach of training, and incorporated it. So this idea of deliberate practice comes from the work of Anders Ericsson, and it really talks about individualized training activities that are designed by a teacher or a supervisor or a coach, that are designed to improve performance through repetitive practice, refinement via observation by that expert other, and feedback. It's goal-oriented. It links to, for example, Lev Vygotsky's work with the zone of proximal development. And there's a ton of research in the areas of fields like music, chess, sports, where this is incorporated, but only really recently in the last few years has it been applied to psychology, particularly psychotherapy, using particular skills like immediacy within the session and so forth. So I got really interested in this after reading a book called Peak by Anders Ericsson. I said, wait, so, could this apply to learning to consult effectively? And so I started doing some research around deliberate practice of consultation, communication skills, how to communicate effectively. So I did a pilot in my class several years back, and the students had increased self-efficacy as a result of the training, where they got to practice using video modeling, record themselves multiple times, replying with open-ended questions, clarifications, or paraphrasing to show understanding, or reflecting feelings from a consultee. And they also really enjoyed the training. They felt it was a low-stakes opportunity to practice their skills, and they got feedback from me as a supervisor. So I said, okay, this seems to be workable. Let's do it on a larger scale. So with several graduate students, we did a randomized controlled study, and we had 45 different school psychology training programs across the United States. And also there was a training program in Hong Kong that was also in the sample. And we had 109 participants. And in one group, people just had their training as usual. There usually is at least one consultation course in a school psychology program. And then the other, the group that got the intervention had this deliberate practice process. They watched videos, they practiced weekly for several weeks, they self-reflected on their performance for skills, and then they received feedback from us as supervisors on their performance. What was super interesting there was both groups, the control group and the intervention group, both increased their self-efficacy for communication skills in consultation, but only the group that received this deliberate practice training actually improved their skills when we rated their actual performance and measured their performance as consultants. So there was self-efficacy increases, but you might not actually be performing better in action as would help a consultee and indirectly help students in schools. We further did qualitative analysis on the data and showed that some changes resulted to paraphrasing and asking really good questions, as opposed to offering premature advice. Have you tried? Have you tried? Have you tried? Have you tried this? Which is a general reply that consultants can take. And what happens is consultees get frustrated because they say, yes, I have tried that. And the process can break down. So it really was effective in supporting people's skill growth and communication skills. I wanted to talk about one other study that I published a few years back, and it's ongoing also within my own training program. And based on a partnership I had with Dr. Colette Ingram, who was at San Diego State University. She just recently retired. I'm still kind of in denial about that because we've worked together for a lot of years on various projects. But Dr. Ingram and I did this activity called cross-university dialogues in our courses. And it reminds me a lot of like the work that we're doing through this project or intending to do. So we were looking at how to teach multicultural school consultation within our courses. And we had students across the universities partner together, and individually first, they looked at a case study that had some cultural variables in it. A student within a school, the student had recently immigrated to the United States, spoke English as a second language, was exhibiting some concerns within the school setting. They had this case study, solved it individually or looked at it and made some thoughts about the case study. And then they came together as a dyad or a triad, 2 or 3 partners to work through the case study. They shared in those meetings about their training programs, their own identities and values and beliefs, and then how they wanted to approach this case. And then they were tasked with coming up with solutions for the case study together. How would they approach it? Students absolutely loved this activity that we've done for a number of years, and we loved it as instructors. And we said, I feel like there's a lot of learning happening here. Like, let's look at what is actually happening. And so we were able to use archive data and looked at 3 years of data together and did a grounded theory study, which is a qualitative methodology. We use constructivist grounded theory. And in short, we found we looked at 88 students across 3 different training programs because I had switched universities, and found that trainees, the graduate students established increased self-awareness, professional identity as expressed through written reflections that they did. They brought together multiple perspectives in understanding the case, including their own identities and values and how those informed the work they were doing. They expressed learning from each other, and also talked a lot about how they would use multicultural school consultation as an approach. In other words, how they would think about the consultee's identity and the student's identity and the overarching school culture when they were engaged in problem-solving work within school settings. They also had ecological perspectives within the problem-solving process. So it wasn't just a focus on what's wrong with this child, who's the focus of the case study, but what are all these other nested circles that are a part of it, really like thinking of Uri Bronfenbrenner's work in ecological systems theory. And that really emerged from the learning from this particular project. So those are just a couple to get wheels turning here. And so that's our last slide, but then we're gonna kind of bring it back to the group for this larger discussion. And so Dave and Alfredo and I came up with a few different questions here, and this is like the audience participation section. And these are the questions that we were looking at. And then I'll stop sharing my screen perhaps so that we could all see each other. But the first question was, why do you think it may be important to collaborate across the countries and cultures in talking about psychology or other topics? Now, you've heard from 3 of us, all kind of different perspectives and different pieces along with our students. What themes do the presentations have in common? Also, what are some of the differences? And then what goals or priorities could you envision for this type of partnership? Because we want to really hear from you that are participating on it, what would be of most value, but also just generally, like, are there other questions, comments, concerns, ideas that you have? So I'll stop my share now if everyone kind of has the idea of some of these directing questions. We don't have to be exact, but we could just kind of open it up for starters. So I'll stop sharing and we can see everyone on the screen. Okay. And so Dave and Alfredo, you'll help facilitate with me too, okay? So I'll shut up and leave it open. So if you'd like to.
Ojalá y se animen a participar, ¿no? Compártanos, por favor, díganos qué les pareció, si tienen la intención de hacer colaboración internacional, si han pensado, bueno, para los que son estudiantes, ¿no? O para los que son profesores, qué retos han tenido para hacer colaboración internacional, si sería importante. Es lo que nos interesa saber.
Hola, buenas tardes. No sé si todavía participar.
Sí, claro.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Sí,
Me
sí.
presento, soy Eréndira. Los escucho desde Oaxaca, México. Entonces, aquí en esta parte del sur del país. Muy interesante, la verdad, todo lo que han comentado, todos los proyectos de investigación que se están realizando. Y bueno, mi interés es poder conocer cuál sería el proceso para poder pues hacer alianzas, poder incorporarme a algún proyecto de investigación. Aquí en Oaxaca, yo estoy cursando el doctorado en biociencias en la Facultad de Medicina de la UAPJO. Recientemente tenemos la licenciatura en psicología, es muy nueva, un año, entonces, en la parte pública, ¿no? En la parte privada, pues desafortunadamente no es muy dada a hacer investigación. Y en la parte pública, en cuanto a la UAPJO, pues es muy nueva. ¿Cómo pudiéramos poder hacer alianzas, poder incorporarnos o poder participar en proyectos como el que están haciendo me interesa mucho el de cognición y salud mental, que he estado participando también en sus seminarios y y he visto ahí bastante interesante, ¿no?
Bien, muchas gracias. Pues mira, yo creo que un primer paso es, bueno, ya conociste los proyectos de Dave, los proyectos de Daniel, los proyectos que presentamos nosotros. Nos falta todavía 2 sesiones más donde nuestros estudiantes de las carreras o de los posgrados también van a presentar parte de lo que están haciendo. Yo creo que un primer paso es, bueno, escuchar las otras 2 sesiones. La siguiente sesión es el 10 de octubre y la siguiente será el 14 de noviembre. Por lo pronto, lo que puedo hacer, mira, yo te puedo dejar aquí mi correo electrónico por si te interesa alguno de los proyectos que traemos nosotros. También Dave y Daniel, supongo que pueden compartir un correo por si te interesa alguno de los proyectos de ellos, igual como para cualquiera de las personas que están aquí presentes o de los que están viendo o van a ver el video, porque esto se está transmitiendo también por Facebook Live bueno, y se va a publicar en las páginas de las universidades. Pero la otra es esto, ¿no? Que nos comuniques en particular al proyecto que te haya interesado más, pues al de Dave, al de Dani o al mío, en concreto, ¿qué te gustaría hacer? ¿Cómo te gustaría colaborar? ¿En dónde te sentirías más cómoda, no? Pero sobre todo, ahorita lo que plantea Daniel, ¿por qué crees que las relaciones internacionales, la colaboración internacional puede fortalecer tu perfil profesional o tu perfil de egreso? A ver, Erendira.
One other piece I would say with potential for
Bueno,
collaborating on things is if you're able to read any of the things that we've published and see particular research studies or areas. So you've seen one of my areas is consultation in schools in particular, but I also do larger psychological consultation I'm interested in. Also, clinical supervision is another area, and I feel like could be applicable in thinking about supervision and training. So, as you kind of get familiar with some of the work that we're all doing, there might be particular projects or ideas that you have that are of interest. And so I think, all of us would be open to anyone reaching out and starting a dialogue or a conversation about that.
Perdón, Heredira, nos ibas a comentar, ¿por qué crees que hacer esta colaboración internacional puede favorecer tu perfil?
Sí, sin duda, ¿no? Dentro de lo que estaba yo escuchando hace un momento es precisamente unificar qué se está hablando cuando se habla de psicología. Creo que es una de las cuestiones, pues, de importancia, porque al menos aquí en México todavía se tiene mucho pues, a estar casados con ciertas escuelas de psicología y todavía existe como esa discrepancia y nos alejamos del objetivo en general de lo que es la ciencia psicológica, creo, ¿no? Al menos aquí en Oaxaca es lo que pasa. Entonces creo que poder conocer lo que está sucediendo en otros estados, en otros países, pues permite precisamente tener mayores herramientas para la práctica profesional desde la ciencia psicológica como tal, ¿no?
Exactamente. Muchas gracias por tu opinión. ¿Alguien más? Bueno, aquí veo que escribió Nia, que es estudiante de Indiana. A ver, Nia, ¿tienes oportunidad de platicarnos algo más sobre tu experiencia? Si crees que, por ejemplo, si hacemos un intercambio, si conseguimos los recursos para traerte a Mexicali o para a llevarte a Oaxaca o a alguna otra parte del mundo, ¿crees que eso puede ayudar a fortalecer tu perfil? ¿Y qué pasaría qué crees que pasaría si viajaras y conocieras más cosas?
Hi. So I think that that would actually be really helpful and cool. I think that just gaining that perspective in person somewhere else outside of where you're born and raised and where you've lived all of your life would be really helpful. Just as a professional to help you kind of understand different perspectives other than your own and to kind of have a better cultural understanding. I think that that would be helpful for anybody in any profession, but especially with the profession that all of us are in.
Ya. Sí, muchas gracias, Nia. Miren, estoy viendo que está aquí Julia Suliman. Ella es de Indonesia, es una profesora de la Universidad de Universitas en Indonesia. Muchas gracias, Julia, por estar acá. No sé si te estamos desvelando, porque normalmente los horarios, las zonas de tiempo son complejas. Eh, Julia, algo que nos quieras compartir sobre tu experiencia de colaboración internacional, si es posible ir contigo también allá a tu universidad.
Yes, good morning here in Jakarta is morning. My regards from Indonesia. Actually, I bring several friends, but we misunderstood the time. We were ready at 5 in the morning, but actually the meeting started at 6, so they left for some other activities. But this all great. I would like to get involved in these collaborative projects. But I will ask my friends, my colleagues to join. It is not only for me myself, but for my colleagues to join. So maybe if you can give the summary of each project from these 3 big projects, so that I can ask which of my friends would like to get involved. So that would be great. Do you think it is possible just to give maybe 1 or 2 slides, just to let them get interested, and then we follow up from there, okay?
Sí, de hecho, se está grabando esta sesión y te podemos compartir el video. O sea, de hecho, la idea es compartirlo. Ahorita está proyectándose también por Zoom, perdón, por Facebook Live. Pero sí, claro que sí, Julia, te compartimos el video. Y les comento, bueno, a Julia tengo el honor de conocerla ya desde hace varios años. Y creo que ahí los proyectos de Dave y Julia se parecen mucho, o sea, tienen mucha actividad comunitaria, tienen mucho de trabajo con la sociedad. Sería interesante, bueno, después ya no que se conozcan Julia no sé, Julia, si la actividad que realizas también tiene que ver con temas de psicoterapia, no recuerdo esa parte, pues, pero me acuerdo bien que los trabajos, los proyectos de Dave se parecen en algo a lo que estás haciendo ahí en Yakarta con tus alumnos. Mm,
Yeah, I would love that.
Oh, sorry. Did you say something, Dave?
I was just saying thank you, Alfredo, and I would love that. I'm always interested to meet people from all over the world that share common interests, and I think it's cool that like this project, like is the hub. I think is the 3 universities represented, but maybe just I know we said this in the beginning, but maybe just for clarification, because I know I didn't emphasize this with at least with the Indiana students, that this also there's a global group that was invited to this as well, and so we're hearing from people around the world. Oh, I just saw that note. I'm so sorry to hear that. But I would be happy to follow up with you, Julia. It's great to meet you.
I was just gonna kind of spotlight Jack's comment in the chat just about learning about the differences in psychological training across the countries, and it would be interesting to learn about kind of more of the licensure in Mexico and kind of what that allows you to do. And I guess, being selfish, from a school psychology perspective, kind of what that looks like as well. If the training that they receive at UABC could, allow them to work in the schools and, provide psychological services there, just, in general, just seeing from the other programs in other countries too, kind of what the pathways look like and kind of what the jobs look like, and then maybe even kind of how the outcomes are. Like, are the programs producing the kind of psychologists that they want to see, those kinds of things.
Sí, bueno, voy a tratar de contestar tal vez de manera general a Jack. Fíjate que este tema de colaborar con ICOP, donde tenemos las visiones de diferentes culturas, diferentes formas de ejercer la enseñanza de la psicología, me ha dejado una cosa más o menos clara, ¿no? Al parecer, es diferente hablar de formación profesional y de ejercicio profesional, porque el ejercicio profesional está muy regulado por cuestiones legales y económicas, y la formación está muy regulado por aspectos más de corte científico, tiene otras reglas de juego, pues. Entonces, para el caso particular de México, nosotros les decía que podemos ejercer con lo que ustedes denominan bachelor, que es la licenciatura para nosotros. Pero nosotros en la licenciatura tenemos, según un estudio que hicimos junto con Amanda y Gulnora, una maestra de la Universidad de Uzbekistán, en la licenciatura nosotros tenemos hasta 3 veces más horas supervisadas que lo que ustedes tienen en el grado de maestría o doctorado, porque por normatividad, por cuestiones legales, nosotros estamos obligados como profesores y como estudiantes a ofrecer servicio social. Hay cierta cantidad de horas que tenemos que hacer de práctica comunitaria, obligada por constitución o por la constitución política de los Estados Unidos mexicanos. Aparte, hay unas horas que le llamamos prácticas profesionales que están afiliadas a créditos. O sea, tienen crédito los estudiantes por hacer prácticas. Ya veo que está Heidi aquí. Quizás nos pueda platicar un poquito más porque tenemos en nuestro programa en UABC tenemos 25 formas de hacer prácticas y que nos acrediten eso, ¿no? O sea, hay muchas formas de hacer eso. Y la otra es que la cultura en Latinoamérica, particularmente, bueno, en el caso de México, pero Centroamérica entiendo que es igual, en algunas partes de Sudamérica, nosotros, debido a la falta de recursos económicos y la característica en la forma en que se aplican las políticas públicas, las universidades públicas normalmente estamos muy relacionadas con las comunidades y tenemos que llevar actividades o servicios comunitarios supervisados por los profesionales, por los profesionistas, en este caso los profesores. Entonces nuestros alumnos literalmente tienen interacción con las personas, ya sea a nivel clínico, a nivel de investigación aplicada, experimental. Entonces, hay muchas formas de generar eso. Y entiendo que para ustedes, por cuestiones legales y por cuestiones, pues sí, básicamente normativas, no es más complicado, pues, en las universidades. Tienen que irse hasta el doctorado y empezar a intervenir de manera supervisada en el doctorado. Nosotros lo hacemos desde la licenciatura. Pero bueno, es técnicamente y normativamente es muy diferente el sistema. Pero si te quieres venir a hacer créditos acá, bienvenidos. Creo que Heidi puede dar algunas ideas sobre cómo otorgarte créditos si tu universidad te lo permite. No sé, ¿qué más? ¿Algo más? Daniel, Dave, no sé si estamos todo el tiempo de recibir más preguntas. Creo que se está acercando el tiempo límite. Comentarios.
Yeah. Maybe we should just to wrap up, give the dates. I don't have it in front of me. Does anyone have the dates of the subsequent sessions in front of them? And we could plug that and see if people, get on your calendars. We have a couple of other sessions planned, and at those we'll have graduate students that are going to present on their ongoing research. And so I think that'll be really interesting too, and then just continue the dialogue. So I think October 10th at the same time, right? 7 o'clock is the next session. And then I'm old school. I'm looking through my paper calendar right now. November 14th. So 7 o'clock on November 14th. So
That's right. I also think we should be sure to thank Serapis for his
yes,
translations, and thank you so much for doing that. He's been doing that through all of our meetings too. He's been amazing, and we couldn't do this without him. So I just wanted to thank him for his efforts, and also Papa and Tierney from APA for coming in and joining us. Oh, there he is. He's visible. All right. Serapis.
Is it awkward to thank yourself through translation, Serapis?
Yeah.
Right.
So thank you all so much for coming. If this is, you never know what's going to happen at the first meeting. We weren't sure if it was just going to be the planning group talking, or a larger group. I think we had like 24, 25 people, something like that at our peak size. So we take that as a sign of interest. Obviously, particularly those of you at the participating universities, if you have feedback for us for future sessions, I know, as mentioned, like our intention is to kind of continue sharing different work that different people are doing, spotlighting students and different faculty, and continuing to have some time for dialogue to learn more about each other, ask the kind of questions like we were just asking, and hopefully over time to build some nice connections. Is there anything else you all? We didn't, through our planning, I don't think we agreed on how we were going to end. So I don't know if I'm the end or others. Either of you would like to say anything
Perfect.
before we go?
No, yo creo que sí, bueno, tenemos que cerrar la sesión por cuestiones de tiempo, porque la señal pues la abre la American Psychological Association. Y sí, reiterar el apoyo de Amanda Clinton, de Papa, de Tierney y de todos los presentes, ¿no? Nos vemos, por favor, acompáñenos. Nos vemos el próximo 10 de octubre a la misma hora. Yo supongo que es en la misma liga. Ahí vamos a trabajar. Y Serapis, muchas gracias también. Y bueno, pues nos vemos después con más calmita. Hasta luego.
Thanks, everyone.